Galaxias chapter 25 is officially out, and we finally get back to see what's going on with Neraid and Schmidt, and how they got out of the situation, and us getting an idea of what they're going to do in the future, as well as some more stuff revolving around Schmidt's dragon abilities. So this was a very interesting chapter, to say the least, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. Now then, just want to let you guys know from between the last review and this one, the manga was on break for an extra week, so it can line back up to its usual release schedule. So that's why we had 2 weeks with no new chapter for Galaxias. So we're back to regular schedules for the time being, so let's see what happens from this point forward. Before we jump into the chapter, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Now let's get right into the video. Chapter 25 of Galaxias, titled Fighter. As we cut back to Neraid waking up in bed, as he's greeted by the old lady and her son that they met at the beginning of the arc, and they helped as they go to see if he is okay after they were shocked and were worried about him after he was covered in blood from his previous altercation. And Neraid's wondering what's going on. Am I alive? Is this reality? And then he's actually wondering what's going on, with Schmidt waking up saying, please don't touch his shoulder. The splice is still unstable. And Neraid's wondering, what do you mean by splice? As you look over to his left arm that was cut off, as he has a new arm. But it's a bulging and creaking octopus arm, as he just starts freaking out that his arm is literally like an octopus just squirming about, and just screaming that Schmidt's a mad scientist, he's gonna make him do all types of evil shit with his new arm, which I find hilarious. But Schmidt goes on to say, I couldn't retrieve your severed arm, so as an emergency measure, I used my power to give you a new one, as he pulls out a cut off octopus tentacle. As he goes on to explain a bit more about his ability outside of just casting illusions. He says, fire burns, water moistens, stone is heavy, birds fly, and fish swim. Everything in existence has a form suitable to its objective. The Mujina dragon ability can produce changes in matter by rewriting those objects. That arm of yours has already forgotten that it was formerly an octopus leg. I could have preferred to use part of a high-level vertebrae, but octopi have excellent nervous system. You'll get used to it in no time, as Neraid begins to move around his new arm. But he then asks the important question, where is Geo? As he then flips out as Schmidt tells him that he kind of left Geo, he couldn't go and help her. Neraid is trying to say, you could have saved her, why didn't you help out? But Schmidt says, look, I tried to find a way, but there was nothing I could do on my own back there. Very soon, Geo's trial will take place in the world capital of Antares. As the daughter of the king killer, she's guaranteed the death penalty. The trial is going to be nothing more than a farcical formality. Obviously just for the fact of, okay, you want the person that killed the king? For now, to appease the masses, here's the king killer's daughter. We're going to execute them. Be happy with this for now. This shows that we're serious about finding the guy. And Schmidt says that in a few days, she's gonna be dead. But Neraid doesn't want to hear it as he walks off. With this incredibly angry look on his face, he says, ain't it obvious where I'm going? I'm going to Geo. As everyone's trying to tell him to be for real right now. Schmidt says you can't move around yet. You'll need at least 3 more days of rest. And Neraid says he can't just sit still. Geo's gonna get sent to this place and get killed. My wounds have already healed, see? But Schmidt says, no, you still haven't fully recovered. Neraid says, so what should I do? Should I just wait around for Geo to be killed? As Schmidt says, that's right. Give up on Geo and go on your adventure with me. Neraid is shocked, as Schmidt says, it means to act despite circumstances. And Neraid knows what he means, but he's gotta do something. But Schmidt gives him the facts. You couldn't lay a finger on that woman earlier, and that was despite you being in top shape. What can you do now with those heavy wounds? There's no point in just losing more. Neraid tries to go all positive, showing protagonist being like, I won't know if I don't try. But Schmidt tells him to think about it just a little bit and he'll understand. But Neraid is having none of it. He has no right to decide that. It's up to him on how to use his own body. But Schmidt tells him, I'm the one who saved you. And even though Neraid wants to go and save Geo as she's waiting, Schmidt says, now would be a good time to reconsider some things. Do we really need her? As this really pisses off Neraid. As Schmidt also keeps spitting facts right now, unfortunately, saying that we're only in this situation because of Geo's rash and thoughtless actions. If you'd been alone, you could have at least escaped safely even if you didn't win. Having such an uncertain factor is an utter disadvantage. Surely you realize that too. Do you plan on taking her back and repeating the same thing indefinitely? If you're honest about it now, you won't have to be the bad guy. But Neraid tackles Schmidt to the ground, saying, "Don't give me that crap. You call yourself a human." But Schmidt is trying to tell him that it's just a very realistic prioritization right now. But Neraid keeps screaming at him, saying, "Maybe this is your aim from the start. She was just in the way of investigating me." But Schmidt just tells him that that wasn't true. "I would have saved her if I could. Please be rational about this. Your goal is to find Yuri Holst and learn who you are. Gio is just a step in that process. Getting emotional and losing sight of your objective could be putting the cart before the horse." But Neraid tries to tell him that he's going to do both. "I'll save Gio and continue our journey. If you don't like it, then scram, you trash. If you keep bossing me around, I'm gonna..." But before he finishes the sentence, blood begins to drip, as blood just spurts from his eyes, mouth, and ears as he begins to collapse on the ground. As Schmidt just goes on to say, "It's not just your left arm. I sealed up your wounds with an oil and flour paste. Replaced your bone leg with some firewood, and filled your veins with pig's blood. What do you suppose will happen if all of it goes back to normal? I saved you so I can continue my research. You can go gallantly shout all you like, but in the end, you're alive thanks to my curiosity. You're nothing but a baby in a test tube. If you want to save Gio, I won't stop you. However you go, I'll take back all the charity I gave. Will you keep journeying in search of the truth, or end up dying before achieving anything? Humans only have 2 arms. Please think carefully about what to carry and what to let go of. That's the way of life God has allowed for us." So, let's just deconstruct something really quick before I move on with the rest of the chapter. Neraid was so heavily injured that Schmidt's ability, this new addition to his ability, was allowing him to take other objects and replace parts of Neraid's body if they are similar enough that he can do by reorganizing the structure and proportions of whatever the hell he wants. Pig's blood, firewood, etc. in that octopus arm. That is crazy. That is the equivalent of Schmidt being like their healer, but he needs proper stuff in order to replace what's missing. So there is a good trade-off there. Gives a nice limitation. And it's interesting to see that his ability is more than just crafting incredibly realistic illusions. So I am very excited to see how this can be played out in the future, and hopefully for future fights, if we can really think about it. But it's also interesting that Schmidt can literally just poof and make Neraid just go back to normal, having all the stuff that he just altered for him just instantly change back, and that could, like, as we've seen here, literally start to kill him and get rejected. So yeah, that is just completely insane. And on to the fact of him telling Neraid to just leave Gio be, let her get killed, and that both of them go off on their adventure so they can both find their answers. Because they were in this situation because of Gio just coming back to the fight, trying to help Neraid despite, her not being able to do anything. And that is something that Gio right now is quite literally struggling with right now, as she believes that she killed Neraid. But despite that, Neraid still wants to save Gio no matter what. And I can tell, based on how Schmidt is talking to Neraid about Gio, that he legitimately believes that he did want to save Gio. Maybe not just because she is Neraid's friend and part of his motivation, but during this arc at the beginning, he was starting to come around on Gio and her way of viewing things, and how for a good chunk of it, things would kind of work out. And I feel like we're going to build up to something more when it comes to Gio and her character, in terms of building up how the story will revolve around her in the future and how her decision making can lead to good and bad results. Gio made a bad call there, and it cost Neraid an arm and cost her to be captured. So now we gotta see how things are gonna play out. But as Schmidt tries to walk away, Neraid wills himself back up, using his tail to keep himself up. As he says, "I saw back then. You asked me earlier why I took Gio along." He goes on to admit that he didn't intend to bring her along with him at first. She had things she wanted to do and places to see, but just made excuses. I thought she was boring. And then we cut to Neraid's perspective of chapter 1 when Gio was confronting Yerkes. As he said, "I was wrong. Courage, wit, resolve. She had so much more than I thought. Above all, back then, she would have died with one misstep. But in that situation, she was more alive than anyone." Going back to the moment where Gio managed to outsmart Yerkes and managed to just do an incredibly awesome thing with a rifle. And I love this image of Geo because it's probably the coolest and probably the best drawn image of Geo in the entire manga up until this point. Like, you could tell that there is a sense of confidence, joy, and just the sense of freedom in that look alone. Like she's doing something that she knew she was meant to do. The weight off her shoulders in that instance. You got all that from just one singular panel, and I fucking love it. We cut back to Neraid as he says, "I want to know who I am," with Geo, as we see Neraid standing up with the blood gushing from his face and eyes as he's proclaiming to Schmidt, You gave me this life and body, so let me borrow it one more time. You won't regret it even if I die." And it's then that Neraid collapses on the ground. They go to get Neraid back in bed, as Schmidt seems to have a brief flashback. From what I can get from that panel, it seems like someone close to Schmidt grabbing on his head. And then we cut back to Neraid waking up a little bit later, as his arm is almost back to normal after just one night. And it seems like he's feeling better than ever. He's also wondering what happened to Schmidt, as he doesn't see him now that he woke up. But the guy just said that Schmidt just up and left. As after Neraid passed out, Schmidt says, "Why in the world would I accept his demand when he didn't accept my suggestion?" And so it seems that Schmidt just up and left Neraid high and dry after their argument. And it seems that Neraid is genuinely disappointed, but it's then that Schmidt just walks in out of nowhere like nothing happened, as Neraid just completely confused over him being back. But Schmidt plumps a bunch of material and supplies down on the ground, saying, "You're gonna go to war without any preparation? Even if I die? Yeah, screw that. I'll be in a pickle if you end up dead. Let's go. Time to make things better." As the chapter ends with Schmidt and Neraid getting ready to go and save Geo. This was a great chapter. You could feel the tension between Neraid and Schmidt over this entire situation. I loved seeing Neraid just really going back to say how he ended up wanting Geo to go on this journey with them, and how he just doesn't want to go on this journey without her, and what captivated him to bring her along. Schmidt, obviously from this situation, he does actually want to save Geo in this instance. He relents, because regardless, even if it is for his research, he genuinely kind of doesn't put up much of a fight after the fact. Because I do think that Geo started to win him over, even towards the end when she was getting captured, as she told him to prioritize Neraid over her. And I love also that we are getting extra additions to Schmidt's abilities, which I'm curious to see how they're going to play out in the future, outside of just the pure illusions of being able to use other living things or objects to basically heal and replace broken parts of people's body. That would be incredible to see how it'll play a factor in the future. But now, we're basically launching an assault on the Royal Zodiac in the capital, seemingly. So, I'm curious to see what's going to happen next, because Neraid wasn't able to do much against Antares, so something's going to have to happen to put him on edge in order to win, or at the very least, since their goal is to rescue Geo, they're going to have to at least do this very quick to get away. But I am hoping that Geo finds a way to contribute more in the future, especially once they get to rescuing her. But we're definitely going in for a rescue arc right now, and I am incredibly excited to see what happens next. Next chapter is going to be in 2 weeks. I hate that this series is bi-weekly now, but this is much better for the mangaka, and the art has definitely improved even more since the switch happened, so I cannot wait for more. But leave your thoughts and opinions on this chapter and what will happen in the future in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Now, with all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.